I wasn't supposed to be here. That's what I kept telling myself as I walked barefoot across the warm sand, the ocean breeze brushing against my face like it was trying to calm the storm in my head. The company retreat email had said, relaxation, team bonding, casual environment. Nothing about running into your boss in the most unexpected way possible. And definitely nothing about her. I spotted her before she saw me. Or maybe I didn't want to believe she saw me first. She stood near the shoreline, the waves gently kissing her feet, sunlight reflecting off the water and framing her like something unreal. She wasn't in her usual sharp suits or intimidating heels. No. This was different. She wore a simple off-shoulder summer dress, light fabric moving with the wind, her hair loose, natural, effortless. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Then it happened. She turned. And her eyes locked onto mine. I froze. Completely. My brain shut down, but my eyes, they didn't get the memo. They drifted. And yeah, I was caught. Her voice cut through the air, calm but sharp enough to slice straight through my confidence. Eyes are up here. My heart dropped straight into the sand. I snapped my gaze up instantly, heat rushing to my face. I wanted to disappear, to rewind time, to pretend I had never come here. But I couldn't. She took a few steps closer, her expression unreadable, arms casually crossed as if she had all the control in the world. Which she did. Enjoying the view, she asked, one eyebrow slightly raised. I swallowed hard. Words refused to cooperate. Why yes, ma'am. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I sounded like an idiot. But instead of walking away, she smiled. And that smile? It was dangerous. I expected her to walk away. That's what usually happened in the office. She gave orders, I followed them. Clean. Professional. Predictable. But this wasn't the office. And she didn't leave. Instead, she stepped closer, too close. I could smell her perfume now. Something light, but it lingered just enough to mess with my focus. My brain was screaming at me to act normal, but my body had already betrayed me. Relax, she said softly, her tone shifting. Less sharp. More curious. That alone threw me off. I didn't mean to, I started, but she cut me off. I know what you meant, she said, a faint smirk forming. Or didn't mean. Her eyes studied me like she was analyzing a report, breaking me down piece by piece. Except this time, I wasn't just an employee. I was exposed. You're different here, she added, glancing briefly toward the ocean before looking back at me. I frowned slightly. Different? She nodded. At work, you're composed. Quiet. Controlled. A pause. Right now? Not so much. I exhaled, letting out a nervous chuckle. Guess the beach isn't my usual environment. Clearly. There was a brief silence between us, filled only by the sound of waves crashing behind her. Then she did something unexpected. She stepped past me. Walk with me, she said casually, as if it wasn't a request. I hesitated for half a second. Then followed. We walked along the shoreline side by side, the tension between us thick but unspoken. You've been working late, she said suddenly. I blinked. Yeah. I noticed things, she added. Of course she did. She was my boss. But the way she said it, it didn't feel like management. It felt personal. You don't have to prove anything, she continued, her voice quieter now. I looked at her, confused. I'm not trying to. Yes, you are. She stopped walking. So did I. Her gaze met mine again, but this time, it wasn't intimidating. It was something else. Just don't forget, she said softly, you're allowed to breathe. And for the first time since I met her, I didn't feel like I was standing in front of my boss. I felt like I was standing in front of a woman I didn't understand yet. And that made it even more dangerous. That walk should have been the end of it. A random, slightly embarrassing beach encounter. Something I'd laugh about later. Maybe even cringe over. But it didn't end there. Because later that evening, I saw her again. The beach had transformed. What was calm and quiet during the day now pulsed with soft music, dim lights, and laughter from coworkers scattered across the sand. A bonfire crackled at the center, casting warm shadows that danced across faces. I tried to blend in. Grab a drink. Stay casual. Avoid eye contact. Simple plan. Failed instantly. You're avoiding me. Her voice came from behind me, low and certain. I turned slowly. She stood there again, but this time, it was different. The lighting, the atmosphere, the way her dress caught the glow of the fire, it all made her feel less like my boss, and more like someone I wasn't supposed to get close to. I'm not avoiding you, I said, which sounded like a lie even to me. She tilted her head slightly. Really? I exhaled. Okay, maybe a little. She smiled. Not the sharp, teasing smile from earlier. This one was softer. Good, she said. That means you're thinking. That's not a good thing? Oh, it is, she replied, stepping closer again. It just means you're aware. Aware of what? She leaned in slightly. Of the fact that this, she gestured subtly between us, isn't as simple as it should be. My chest tightened. She wasn't wrong. This wasn't simple. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. You're my boss, I said quietly, almost like I needed to remind myself. And you're my employee, she replied just as calmly. A pause. Then, but we're also two people standing on a beach outside of work. That line hit harder than I expected. Because she wasn't crossing the line. She was erasing it. And for some reason, I didn't step back. The night grew quieter, but the tension didn't. The bonfire had started to die down, coworkers drifting off in small groups, laughter fading into the background. But somehow, we were still there. Still standing too close. Still not leaving. You're thinking too much, she said, her voice softer now, almost blending with the sound of the waves. I let out a quiet breath. Can you blame me? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, closing the already dangerous distance between us. The firelight flickered across her face, highlighting every subtle expression, every shift in her eyes. This isn't complicated, she finally said. I almost laughed. It feels complicated. That's because you're trying to put rules on something that doesn't have any right now. Her words hit harder than I expected. No rules? I repeated. She shook her head slightly. Not here. Not tonight. That should have been a red flag. It wasn't. Tomorrow, she continued, we go back to being who we are. Boss and employee. Clear lines. Safe distance. But tonight? She was offering something else. Something undefined. And what are we tonight? I asked, my voice lower than I intended. Her gaze held mine, steady, unreadable, but not cold. Two people who don't have to pretend. The silence that followed was heavier than anything she'd said before. Because this wasn't just about attraction anymore. This was permission. Not spoken outright. But understood. I felt my heartbeat pick up, every instinct telling me to step back, to create distance, to bring things back to something safe and familiar. But I didn't move. Neither did she. And in that moment, the line between us didn't just blur. It disappeared. We didn't touch. Not at first. But somehow, everything felt closer than it should have been. We moved away from the bonfire, walking along the darker stretch of the beach where the only light came from the moon reflecting off the water. The world felt quieter here, like we had stepped into a space that didn't belong to anyone else. You're quiet again, she said. I'm trying not to say something I'll regret. She glanced at me, a faint smile forming. That means you're thinking about saying something dangerous. I stopped walking. So are you, I said. That caught her off guard. Just slightly. But I saw it. For the first time, she wasn't completely in control of the moment. Careful, she said, her tone softer but still carrying that familiar edge. You're starting to sound confident. Maybe I'm just adapting. She stepped closer again, her presence impossible to ignore. Or maybe, she said quietly, you're forgetting who you're talking to. There it was. The reminder. The power dynamic. The reality. But this time, I didn't back down. I know exactly who I'm talking to. Silence. The kind that stretched just long enough to mean something. Her expression shifted, not into authority, not into distance, but into something more human. More real. Good, she said. And then she did something unexpected. She reached out, just briefly, her fingers brushing against mine. It wasn't a full touch. Not a handhold. Just a moment. But it was enough. Because it changed everything. That small touch shouldn't have meant as much as it did. But it did. Because it wasn't accidental. And it wasn't meaningless. I felt it long after her hand pulled away, like a spark that refused to fade. You should head back, she said suddenly, her voice calmer now. I frowned. That's it? She looked at me, her expression unreadable again, but not distant. Do you want it to be more? The question hit harder than anything else that night. Because the answer was obvious. But saying it out loud? That would make it real. I don't know what I want, I admitted. She nodded slowly, like she expected that. That's honest. A pause. Then, but dangerous. I let out a breath. You keep saying that. Because it is. She stepped back this time, creating space where there hadn't been any before. And you don't do dangerous? I asked. She gave a small, almost amused smile. I do controlled. That word lingered. Controlled. Careful. Measured. Everything the situation wasn't. Then why are you still here? I asked. That made her pause. Really pause. Her eyes held mine for a second longer than usual. Because, she said quietly, for once, I didn't want to be. And just like that, she turned. And walked away. Leaving me standing there, alone on the beach. Trying to figure out when exactly things stopped being simple. The next morning felt like a different world. The beach was still there. The ocean hadn't changed. But everything else had. Including her. The moment I saw her at breakfast, I knew. She was back in control. Sharp. Composed. Professional. The same woman who had built walls so high no one ever questioned them. Good morning, she said as she passed by, her tone neutral. Like nothing had happened. Morning, I replied, trying to match her energy. It felt wrong. Like we were both pretending. And maybe we were. Meetings started. Conversations flowed. The retreat schedule resumed like clockwork. But under all of it, there was tension. Unspoken. Unresolved. At one point, our eyes met across the room. Just for a second. But it was enough. Because in that second, I saw it. She remembered. She just wasn't showing it. And that somehow made it worse. It couldn't stay buried. Not after last night. Not after everything that almost happened. I found her later that evening, standing alone near the edge of the resort, overlooking the ocean. You're good at pretending, I said as I approached. She didn't turn immediately. I don't pretend, she replied calmly. You ignore. That made her turn. Finally. And what exactly am I ignoring? She asked. I stepped closer. This. The space between us. The tension. Everything. Her jaw tightened slightly. You think this is simple, she said. No, I replied. I think it's real. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. And that's exactly why it's a problem, she said quietly. I shook my head. Or maybe it's not. She looked at me like she wanted to argue. But didn't. Because deep down, she wasn't sure anymore. The ocean was louder tonight. Or maybe everything else had just gone quiet. We stood there, facing each other, no more distance left to hide behind. This doesn't work, she said. It sounded like a statement. But felt like a question. Why? I asked. Because when this ends, it affects everything. She wasn't wrong. Careers. Reputations. Reality. But what if it doesn't end? I said. That made her pause. Really pause. Her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for something solid enough to hold on to. You're asking me to take a risk, she said. I'm asking you to stop controlling everything for once. A long silence followed. Then, she stepped closer. No hesitation this time. No distance. No rules, right? She said softly. I nodded. Her gaze softened. And for the first time, she didn't look like my boss. She looked like someone choosing something uncertain. Something real. Then just this once, she whispered. I'll take the risk. And this time, neither of us stepped back?